To really complement everything we've discussed the last few sessions, and if you haven't had a chance to, definitely reach out to your Repeat MD team. Those are going to be recorded. Today, we want to talk about a few more hot topics. So, I want to talk all about the different kinds of patients that you are going to be seeing in your practice and how you talk to each one, right? Just like if were speaking to someone in a different language, they wouldn't understand you. It's very much the same with different patient types. There's 5 of them, so I wanna walk you through all of those, and then whether we're talking about a new patient or converting someone to your membership through your RepeatMD app, I wanna share with you my ultimate secret to conversion, and it has nothing to do with what happens when you're in the practice. So we've got some good hot topics. As always, I'm gonna leave plenty of time for Q&A a little bit later in today's session. If there's a question I don't know, I will point you in the right direction. The only questions I'm not the best at are anything about, like, very technical SEO or website questions, not my core competency, but like I said, I'm happy to talk about how those things really factor into your strategy. And if it's any tech question or anything about your RepeatMD team, RepeatMD app, pardon me, you've got your lovely team here to help you with that too. So we've got all hands on deck. It's going to be a great session. As always, please just make sure to keep yourself on mute. I am not Netflix. I am not Hulu. You can cut me off. You can ask me questions. It's going to be great. So feel free to use that chat box as well. If anything you're curious about in the midst of our session today, happy to go, answer questions throughout. So put those on in and get your pen handy, get your paper handy. Maybe you like to take notes with an iPad. That's great too. Your water, your cappuccino, whatever you fancy. Let's dive right in. Let's talk about some great stuff. So, to really kick us off today, I really want to get you all very comfortable and well in the know about the 5 different types of patients you're going to be seeing in your practice. Now, we're going to walk through all 5 of these types here in a moment, but I would invite you all to really think about what type of patient you are seeing the most of and how you can really start to fine tune your marketing based on some of the best practices I'm sharing with you today that are really going to allow you to better converse with, inspire, and convert these types of patients. So, again, we're going to give you the recording. We're going to go through a lot of information very quickly, but I'm super excited to share this with you. So let's start at the top. Let's start with the patients that we are all probably the most familiar with, that you're probably marketing to with the majority of your communications right now, your social media, your emails, any paid marketing you're doing, right? Who you're targeting. And this is going to be what we call our beauty seekers. So, who are the beauty seekers? If you are a practice that serves a lot of millennial patients or even some of your older Gen Z patients, odds are you are very well familiar with the beauty seekers. So, beauty seekers, these are our social butterflies, right? These are those individuals that are, going and, getting blowouts on a weekly basis. They are, already investing in all the skincare at Sephora. They are already, looking for that, I woke up like this effect, right? They're probably very active on social media. They're probably very up to speed on celebrity trends, right? These are the individuals when they hear about, the Kardashians doing the latest treatment or, their favorite influencer is at a clinic doing a treatment, they are then turning around and wanting to experience it for themselves, right? So these are our social media savvy patients. These are the patients that, again, are always looking for the latest and greatest. Like I said, they're often very in tune with what influencers are doing. So, how do we market to these beauty seekers? What are some nuances you want to keep in mind when you are serving them? So, first and foremost, these are the patients that want to look, again, that flawless, I woke up like this effect, right? If you can present them the right way, they're often very open to multimodality treatments, right? Terms like glass skin and all these things where you're focusing on skin quality by leveraging both energy devices, injectables, any of your esthetician services. This is a perfect type of fit for a beauty seeker. This is the type of treatment that they are so in tune with, right? So, like I said, they are very open to multiple modalities and doing different things. These are often some of the best patients to introduce your membership to first, or if you've already rolled out your RepeatMD app, really making sure you focus on these types of patients over and over again in your marketing to convert them into your membership, right? These are the individuals that even though they like looking, flawless and they woke up like this, sometimes they may not be loyal. All the more reason to have a membership that entices them to A, take action quickly, and B, choose your practice again and
I
again.
said,
You can
I still get the
convert
emails with the
these
Zoom.
patients to memberships. It is a game changer. So I am a big believer in really focusing on your beauty seekers first and foremost. So that's type one. Let's get into our second type of patient, our change seekers. So what do change seekers have in common? They can be different age groups, they can have different motivations, but what they all share is change seekers are going to be your patients that are going through some kind of change in their lives, right? Maybe they are, newly single and back on the dating scene and want to look and feel their best, right? Maybe they are new moms who want to look and feel their best after the journey of childbirth, right? Some of your male patients who are getting back into the dating game, they kind of can classify as change seekers as well, right? So for these patients, it's not about seeking the I look flawless, I woke up like this effect. It's really about a time of reinvention in their lives, and your practice and aesthetic treatments are going to be a catalyst in this. So here's what you need to know about change seekers and what makes them unique. So first and foremost, they are often, very influenced by media and expert opinions, right? They might have read about something in, the New York Times or, in Vogue. They may have seen something on the doctors, right? They are often very influenced, not necessarily by influencers on social media, but more so by media and expert opinions, right? Now, you might have all this great information on your website from your different vendors for injectables and devices and all these wonderful things. The reality is, until after the consult and they understand what the technology can do for them, they probably aren't looking at that, right? With change seekers, they are very tuned into WIIFM. What's in it for me, right? They want to know what they can get out of a treatment. Many of your change seekers are possibly new to aesthetic treatments as well, right? They don't know the difference between a filler and a toxin and a laser. This is all new to them. You need to show them the way. With change seekers is so beneficial, as with all the patient types, but especially change seekers, to really map out a treatment plan from that first visit, right? What are we going to do first? What are we going to do next? They don't have to do it all at once, but we at least want them to know the journey that they can take with your practice. So change seekers are a great group as well, because often when they trust you, they'll stay with you, right? But again, unlike the beauty seeker who knows what they want, they're the kind that are going on Real Self, they're coming to you educated. Change seekers need a bit of that guidance. They need a little bit of that handholding, right? These are a lot of patients who are new to aesthetics, and the growth of our industry is really inspiring them to try treatments for the first time. Another type of change seeker I forgot to mention earlier, any of you who do body treatments in your practice, or any of you who may be surgical practices where you're doing anything for massive weight loss patients, a lot of our new change seekers are these individuals who've lost a substantial amount of weight, whether it's due to, the new medications we have available or due to, other efforts they put in place to really feel their best. But, they might be seeing volume loss in their face, or, they're feeling more confident and want to look the part. But those patients who've, undergone a substantial body transformation, they definitely fit in the change seeker category as well. So another great group, but as you can see, how you serve and market to them, that's quite a bit different than your beauty seeker. So far, we've got beauty seekers and we've got change seekers. Let's keep moving along. Our next type, and I might say my favorite type, if I'm being honest with you, is what I call our harmony seekers, right? What is a harmony seeker? So these are your patients. Typically, they're age 45 and above, but there are nuances to that, and it does vary. These are people that aren't necessarily going through a big change in their lives. They're not looking to look perfect or flawless like a beauty seeker would, but they just want to look as good as they feel. They want to look like the best version of themselves, right? These are your patients who are often very averse to looking different or having anything done. These are your patients who often might be a little bit scared of some modalities, right? They're a little bit iffy about filler or injectables because they don't want to look like a real housewife or like they've had something done or any of that. So these are your patients that are probably dipping their toe into aesthetics for the first time, but they don't want to look different, right? One thing that makes your harmony seekers a little bit different as well is they are very detail oriented, right? A change seeker doesn't necessarily care about all of that vendor and industry provided information. A harmony seeker probably will, right? They'll want to read the brochure about your laser. They're going to want to know how this treatment compares to other options they have available. They're going to want to know in great detail about your providers and their credentials and the experience they bring to the table for the individual patient. So that's what really motivates a harmony seeker. Another thing you should know about harmony seekers is they probably aren't going to be finding you on social media. Now, they might look at your social media as they hear about you from a friend or through their own Google searching, or maybe someone who's a member in your practice currently sent them a referral reward through RepeatMD, right? But they probably aren't finding you on social media, but they might look at it in the due diligence process. They also are great because harmony seekers are some of the most loyal patients you will ever have, right? Once you've got them, they're not going to go price shopping to the next practice. They're not going to be looking for who's next. Once you've got them, they're with you. Another great reason you want to introduce memberships to your Harmony Seeker type patients as early on in their journey as possible. So keep in mind that, once you've got them, they're yours. They're perfectly primed for a membership, but they don't want to look different. They want to look natural. The word subtle is a big buzzword with this group. Understanding the safety profile of your treatments, understanding the credentials of your providers, that is all of the utmost importance with our harmony seekers, right? So I love them. They're just a little bit different than the other two groups in how they find you and how they make decisions. So that is your harmony seekers. I love this group. Anytime we're working with a client who's looking to attract more upscale patients, this is definitely one of the groups that we look to bring into consideration. So these are our harmony seekers. Let's talk about our last two patient types. They're interesting because they both behave in similar ways, but their motivations are a little bit different. So the fourth patient type is what we call our prestige seeker, okay? Those of you who have a good number of male patients in your practice, those of you who serve a lot of executives, you are more likely to not seeing prestige seekers in your practice day in and day out. So for these individuals, they aren't necessarily looking to, appear perfect. They're not looking to look different as part of, a change in their lives. For them, aesthetics are an affirmation of their status, and they feel their current appearance holds them back in some way, right? You may have a professional in their mid 50s who is, still very ambitious in the workplace, but they feel like they're being passed up for opportunities because maybe they look, a little, wear and tear is showing, right? These are individuals that, they are not driven by price in any way, shape, or form. They are driven by results and credentials. These are individuals that are absolutely going to want to see before and afters, and that's often one of their biggest motivations and what makes them choose a provider or choose to go somewhere else. They are on social media, but they're probably not looking for a provider there, right? They're probably on social media looking at cars or, planning their next vacation or, seeing what, their favorite friends are up to, right? They're on social media, but understand they might not even follow you, even if they're your patient. They might not like any of your things, right? But they're on there. They might just be looking in the background. The tough part about prestige seekers, they're quick to buy and they don't shop on price, but they have very high standards. For these folks, it's all about the experience. It's all about making sure you go that one step extra to make them feel valued. So they have high standards. The other challenge with this group, again, they will be loyal to you for life. They will not squabble on price one bit. But with this group, discretion often matters. It is very likely that, as much as we love them, these patients will never refer a single soul to you. They probably will never even tell anyone they've been to your practice, right? I'm thinking of one of our education program members in Canada. She is a practice full of like high-powered lawyers, in Calgary, Alberta, and like she loves them. They come in like clockwork every 3 months. They pay a premium. They're easygoing, but like they never want anyone to know they were even there. I'm sure she says, half the competitors in town in the law space go see her. So they are a great group, but where they're a bit of a challenge is high standards and they don't refer. So these are your prestige seekers. Again, a lot of your male patients fit into this category. A lot of your very career-driven individuals fit into this category. Great group. They just come with some nuances. And that brings us to our fifth type, which is going to be our detail seekers. Now, detail seekers act a lot like prestige seekers. The difference with them is going to be why they buy and how they buy. So if I were to describe a detail seeker to you at a glance, These are our ladies who lunch, right? Now, they may or may not be, career-driven individuals, but, they are seeking the best of the best in everything they do, right? They aren't necessarily on social media, but they do want to know that they are getting the latest and the greatest, right? They're often very intuitive by nature, and once they trust you, which again, it takes time to build that trust, but once they trust you, they will do anything you say and trust your advice, right? These are those patients that just say, work your magic, do your thing, and they'll gladly spend $4 or $5,000 in one session, right? They are great decision makers. They don't waffle very much. It just takes time to build that trust and meet their standards, right? With these detail seekers, style and substance are equally as important, right? You could be the best injector in the world. You could be the best clinician on the planet. However, if your practice experience is lacking, or it doesn't make them feel special, or they feel like a number, or anything is kind of, half measure and feels a little bit cheap, you will turn these patients off straight away, right? Remember, these detail seekers, they're the folks that are vacationing at the Four Seasons, right? They're the individuals that are, driving the Range Rovers, and the Bentleys and all of this, right? They're a great group in the sense that they stick with you. However, you got to meet their standards first, right? Whereas a prestige seeker is very unlikely to refer you. These ladies, some gentlemen as well, but the majority of them are ladies. When you get one of them, they will be the first one to send all their friends your way. So it's not necessarily easy to get these folks. They can be a great referral base. And again, just another reason you want to make sure they're in your app as quickly as possible so they can start sending incentives to all their friends and referring them, right? It's a great opportunity. So these are your detail seekers. They also love convenience. So when you have your app up and running, all the more reason it just gives them one less thing to worry about. I want you to write this down. This is true for both prestige seekers and detail seekers, right? Reduce their mental load. Reduce their mental load. What does that mean? With these affluent types of patients, one last decision they have to make in a day is a very good thing, right? So if they can just go into your marketplace and purchase services right away, that's one less thing they have to worry about in their day, right? If they can easily refer friends to the practice through your app, that's one less thing they have to worry about in the day, right? The more you can anticipate their needs and meet them, both in and out of, pertaining to technology, the better you're going to be able to resonate and really gain the trust of these detail seekers. So these are your 5 patient types at a glance. We've got your beauty seekers, right? That I will look up like this, folks. We've got your change seekers who are really looking for treatments as a transition in their lives. We've got your harmony seekers who want to look like their best selves. Your prestige seekers, right? Your very career-driven individuals who feel their current appearance is holding them back, or they're using it to affirm their status. And then last, of course, your detail seekers who want the best of the best. So I've got a little bit more to teach you on this, but I'd love to pause for a second and maybe in the chat box, I would love to hear from some of you. What patient type are you seeing the most of in your practice right now? Number one. And number two, what patient type would you like to see more of? Now, every practice is a little bit different, but I would say the majority of practices that I encounter, they're speaking to a lot of beauty and change seekers right now. They want more of the last three, right? They want more harmony seekers, they want more detail seekers, they want more prestige seekers. So I'd love to hear from some of you, what kind of types of patients are you seeing in your practice right now? And how are you going to be able to adapt your marketing to hopefully speak to more of the patients you want? So I'll let you all start to put that in the chat box, but let's keep moving along because I want to take this a step further. So we've got 5 patient types, and we want to really understand what kind of personality types are we seeing, right? So, and I see, someone here saying lots of harmony seekers, but you want more beauty seekers. You're seeing beauty and harmony and more detail and prestige. I love that. So it's a little different for every practice, but take some of these best practices I shared with you. Definitely re-watch this webinar a few times when we get the recording to you through your RepeatMD team and really see how you can adapt verbiage in your marketing to appeal to them more. This is going to be true on your website. This is going to be true on your social media captions and the type of content you're posting, in your emails, in your offers. Really be mindful of the nuances of each patient type, both in and out of the consult room. So let's take this a step further. Now, I did not invent this, right? This is called Discovery Insights, but every patient, fits, generally speaking, one of these 4 color personality types, right? So you may have heard this before by different names. I'll give you a really quick overview. of the 4 personality types we typically see in patients and what different profiles fit into this. So let's start with your cool blues, right? These are often, if you can think of an accountant, like they are the epitome of like a cool blue type of person usually, right? They're very precise and exacting. They're very formal. They ask a lot of questions. They're very cautious. They're very loyal once they trust you, but they need a little bit of warming up to get there, right? So when I think of cool blue personalities, to me, this is really going to be your harmony seekers. These are the individuals who fit in cool blue, and to a lesser extent, your prestige seekers. Then we've got our fiery reds, right? These are your A-type personalities, right? For me, fiery reds, they're, very, sure of what they want, how they want it. They're very strong-willed, right? Once they trust you, they'll, go with what you say, but they know what they want, right? That's where they are in life. To me, these are often your prestige seekers to a lesser extent, and your detail seekers to me. These are often your fiery reds, right? They are strong people. We love them, but we just have to know how to engage with them. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. Then we've got our earth greens. These are your harmony seekers, right? They're just lovely people, right? They're caring, they're chill, they're relaxed. They often, like I said, might need a little bit of handholding to come to a decision, but they're just very chill people. And then to me, a lot of your beauty seekers are going to be your sunshine yellows, right? Sunshine yellows are people that are very enthusiastic, sociable. I got described as sunshine yellow sometimes on a good day, right? So ultimately, a lot of your beauty seekers are just, having fun with it. Remember, everyone has a primary personality color and a secondary personality color. But generally speaking, your detail seekers, those are going to be your fiery reds. Your harmony seekers, they're going to be a lot of your earth greens. Your change seekers are going to be a lot of your blues, and your beauty seekers are going to be a lot of your yellows. Why am I sharing all of this with you? What does this mean to your practice? So, the way you conduct a sales conversation, the way you conduct a consult with each of these personality types is going to look very, very different. Okay. So, if we really think about this, every personality type is feeling something different, and they have something different they want to get out of a consult, right? So, if you're talking to a patient who is, a detail seeker with, a fiery red personality, if you spend like 90 minutes during that consult, like they're going to be bored to tears, right? They're all about be brief, be bright, be gone, right? They want to know the key information. They need to make a purchase decision, and they want to be on their way either in your chair or onto their day scheduled for the next visit to the practice, right? So when you're dealing with a fiery red, be brief, be bright, and be on your way, right? As far as your cool blues, these are going to be very detail-oriented individuals, right? These are going to be those individuals that they want to see the data. They want to see, how this mechanism of action works. They're going to want to know how this filler that you choose to use in your practice compares and is superior to some of the other options out there, right? They're going to want to know all of those details. Cool blues, they're happy to take the time with you. They just need to make sure they have all the details provided to them in a way that they understand, right? So those are your cool blues. Then we've got your earth greens. And again, a lot of your harmony seekers are going to be the earth greens, right? They're going to be show me you care. They're going to be the ones who want to feel they have a relationship with you. They're going to want to feel that their needs are heard. I'm going to give you all a tip right now. Get your pen and paper handy. I have never given this away complimentary before, but for RepeatMD, I'm going to gladly do this. With harmony seekers, I want you, all of your patient types, frankly, but especially your harmony seekers, I want you to do something very specific when you begin the consultation, right? 90% of you on this webinar right now, I would bet, dollars to donuts, the first question you ask when you do that consult with a new patient, other than like, how you found us and stuff like that, but when you're assessing them, you probably are asking, what is your main concern or what's bothering you? I'm going to be really honest. I don't like starting a consultation on that note at all. I think, look, for a lot of people, when they're in your practice, they're talking about some of their biggest insecurities, right? If it's their first time in an aesthetic practice, it can be very intimidating. So, how do we really leverage conversations in a way that build people up? I want you to change that first question you ask during the consult from what's your concern or what's bothering you. I want you to really try and change that to something a little bit different. Change it to what do you love the most about your face? Or what do you love the most about how you look, right? What an inviting way to start that consultation. We've had clients make that shift before, and like People will cry in a good way when you ask them that question, right? Most people have never been asked that before by anyone, let alone when they're going to a practice, right? And if they've been to other practices before, they're used to that conversation starting on a rather negative note with, again, what's bothering you? What's our concern today? What are we fixing? So always with all types, but especially that earth green, really try switching that first question from what's bothering you to tell me what you love the most about your face or what you love the most about about how you look. Two reasons that's important. Again, it's a positive way to start the conversation. Number two is it puts people at ease, right? And when people are at ease, they're more likely to convert into patients. So that's number two. And number three, you might see a patient and think, they could really benefit from some, additional volume in their lips, right? But if their lips are their favorite feature, and they tell you that, you don't want to go, criticizing something that they actually really like about themselves already, right? So I just think it's a really nice way to start the sales conversation. What do you love the most about how you look? Or what do you love the most about your face? Give it a try, see how it works for you. And then when you do want to get to talking about concerns, rather than saying what bothers you, maybe consider switching that to verbiage such as, what are we looking to minimize or what are we looking to improve upon? That's my personal favorite, right? What are we looking to minimize or what are we looking to improve upon, right? It's a very small shift in how you're speaking to patients, but it can make a world of difference in how they feel about that consult, how they feel about you as a provider, and how you go about building that trust a lot more quickly. So give that a try. Follow me on Instagram. I'll give you my details later. I'd love to hear how it works for you. So there you go. And then last but not least, sunshine yellows, right? Involve me, right? Get your sunshine yellows talking. Let them know about events you have coming up, right? Make sure they're following you on social media, right? You want to make sure they feel like they're part of the family, part of the team, enjoying an experience. That's going to go a long way to really improving your consults with your sunshine yellows. So I always say when you are selling luxury, it is all about the art of invitation and suggestion, right? The art of invitation and suggestion. If you are selling something to somebody, you're doing it wrong, right? If you feel like you're pushing something on somebody, you're doing it wrong. So these approaches, when you know the personality type you're dealing with and the patient profile type you're dealing with, can really go a long way to making that conversion so much easier. So those are your 4 personality types at a glance. But let's get into the next thing I want to talk to you about today. And we'll talk about this more in future sessions, but I want to just introduce the concept to you today. I want you to write this down, highlight it, underline it in red, tattoo it to your forehead if you're so inclined. 80% sold, right? When you do your branding the right way, when you do your marketing the right way, your patients should be 80% sold by the time they're in that consult fair speaking with you for the first time. So, what does this mean, right? You want to make sure in all of your marketing, online and offline, you are doing everything you can to credential, answer questions, explain what makes your practice different. So, patients have that information well before the consult. Now, this can take a few different formats, right? One is on all of your website treatment pages. And by the way, if you don't have individual pages for your treatments right now, you definitely should. So make sure that you have that. FAQs on your treatment pages are going to go a long way to getting patients 80% sold. Make sure you have before and afters easy to access, not just on a gallery page on your website, not just hidden on your Instagram, but really everywhere, right? The treatment pages, the gallery page on your website, easily found on your social media profiles. In the email that you're sending patients before that appointment to confirm it, you may want to include a link to your before and afters there. Those are incredibly important, your before and afters, especially for your prestige seekers, like we talked about a few minutes ago. Another really great thing to do to get people 80% sold is going to be testimonials, social proof, and patient stories, right? How can you make sure a patient sees those before they come in, right? Do you have a monitor in your lobby area? Some practices do, some don't. If you do, can you share testimonials and patient stories there? Are you sharing them frequently on your social media? Are they easily found on your website, right? Don't just let them sit and get hidden and collect dust on your Google business listing. It's great to have them there, but once they're there, use them everywhere else, right? That's another way to get patients 80% sold. And another thing I like to do is have your reception staff, before they come in for the consult, either as a web link or a PDF, have access to a one sheet that credentials your provider. Where have they trained? How many patients have they seen? What makes them unique from everyone else in your market? How do they stand head and shoulders above, right? How are you telling that story? Like we talked about in some of our earlier sessions, that one sheet is going to be a really key asset as well. From there, remember, social media can accelerate that journey to getting people 80% sold, right? Make sure you're active on your stories. Make sure you're active in your posts, right? I'm sure you're already doing social media. How are you using it to accelerate the journey? Live content is a great way to do that well, right? I've talked about this before, but think about your live sessions on Instagram or TikTok if you're on there, or Facebook Live as a group consult in virtual format, right? A group consult in virtual format. That will get people 80% sold. It will move them through the journey. Your website is obviously a really important part as well, right? I said it before on previous sessions. I'll say it again today. You can't sell beauty if your marketing looks like a beast, right? You can't sell beauty if your marketing looks like a beast. So make sure your website, your offline collateral, your social media, make sure they all look great. Another thing I'm a really big fan of is if this, you're probably sending appointment reminders and all these great things already, but just to add that little extra personal touch, if you're not already, giving that patient a courtesy call around 24 hours before they're scheduled for that consult. What questions do they have? What do they want to know? How can you make their experience really as beneficial and as informative as it can be? That way, you know what you're in for when the patient comes in, and you can tailor your consult accordingly based on the information your staff gets in that courtesy call, right? I want you all to think of the most coordinated sales experience you've ever had, right? My example of this is actually a timeshare, right? This is a few years ago, and I was staying at the Hilton in DC, and they offered me an invite to the Hilton Club, which I didn't know at the time. I was naive. That's what they call their timeshares now. I was like, oh, how? I thought it was like a country club or something. Like, oh, I'm invited to the Hilton Club. They made me an appointment. Someone hand delivered the invitation for my appointment to my room that evening. It was in a gorgeous envelope, right? It talked all about this venue, right? And then, when you get the next day to the little area where they're doing their timeshare pitch, right? They ask you about your day. They're getting to know what your, vacation preferences are, right? They're making you watch all these fabulous videos before you even speak with the sales associate. Now, I don't like timeshares, so I didn't purchase one that day. But I will say that was a very coordinated sales experience, right? They made sure to do all these things in the 24 to 36 hours before I even met with that sales representative, such that I was, either primed to buy or at least knew as much about the offering as possible, so that that salesperson's work was more about clarifying and really justifying value versus explaining and selling and telling to me, right? So the point here is you want your sales experience to be coordinated, right? We're at a show in Las Vegas tomorrow, right? If you look in any Las Vegas casino, everything in there is coordinated to make you spend money. From the way that that casino is laid out, to the temperature in that casino, to the fact they often don't have very many windows in them, right? They know what they are doing. It is all a psychological experience to get you to, gamble more, get lost, and, put your $20 in the machine along the way if you so choose, right? Very coordinated. You need to think like that. Your sales experience needs to be coordinated. And remember, people think the sales experience and the sales conversation begins in that consult room. It begins the moment they find you, whether it's on social media or your website, right? So really think of those ways that you can coordinate things a little bit better at every phase of the journey and really get your patients 80% sold, right? Whether you're selling to a beauty seeker, a prestige seeker, a harmony seeker, or anyone in between, regardless of the personality types, a coordinated sales experience is going to benefit you greatly in all situations. So keep that in mind. So those are the hot topics I wanted to cover with you all today. Let's get into some Q&A. What questions can I answer for you about these patient types? What can I answer for you about really creating a more coordinated experience from the get-go, the moment that patient walks into your practice? I'm all ears, fill me in. If you want to hop off, Mike, and join me in conversation, you can do that. Or if you're a little shy and just want to type in the chat box, that's great as well. Sarah, I'm going to pick on you today. What did you take away from our conversation today? Fill me in. Oh, you're muted.
Might have been
There you
5.
go.
I took away that there are four different types of customers that you can expect to see, and each of them have different expectations and different needs, and you will want to address them in different ways.
Love it. Love it. What questions do we have? I love how in the chat everyone's saying all the different patient types they're seeing, right? And it could be that in your marketing, if you look back on everything that I shared with you today, without even realizing it, you were really, shifting your marketing and doing things in a way to attract one type of patient, when in reality, you're trying to attract another, but again, you're not speaking their language, right? The way you attract a harmony seeker is so different than a prestige seeker, is so different from a detail seeker. And it might be that different treatments you offer are better geared to different types of patients, and you shift the marketing and vocabulary you use in the marketing for those respective treatments appropriately, right? Don't think you can only serve one. It's just about who you want to see and want to see more of. We've got some great questions coming in. Let's get into it. So I am going to start with Brittany. Brittany has a question about websites. Each of my devices has a landing page, but should the different treatments the device offers have its own page or be all on one? That's a great question, Brittany, and I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, oh gosh, do I have to completely redo my website now? The answer is not necessarily. So on a website, I really like to break content down into three key areas, okay? The first is treatments, right? For those patients who know what they want and what they're curious about, that way they can access that quickly. Maybe you have, an RF microneedling device, a certain brand, and you have a page for that. That's great, but let's take it a step further. Two sections I want you all to add to your websites. Number one is solutions by age. Number two is browse by condition. Let's talk about these. So solutions by age, this is where you might have a page for patients in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s. I think 50 and up has a negative connotation, so I like to say 50 and better. And you might have a page for men as well if you're seeing a lot of male patients. On each of these different age pages, I want you to talk about the common aging concerns patients usually see in that decade. Maybe it is volume loss. Maybe they are dealing with a lot of skin laxity. Maybe they are dealing with sun damage, right? What are the common concerns you typically see among patients in a certain age group? We want to hone in on those. So that's the first section. And then below that, you can put ideal treatments in your 20s or ideal treatments in your 50s, right? And then link to your individual treatment pages. So that way you've got the pages for the treatment, you've got the pages based on the age group someone's in if they don't know what they need. And then, of course, third, you've got browse by concern. This can become very robust over time, but maybe you start with the 4 or 5 conditions you see patients for the most, right? Fine lines and wrinkles, sagging jowls, rosacea, acne scars. And on each of your conditions pages, what you want to do, you want to talk about what causes the condition, how to prevent it. You talk about ideal treatments for it, whether you choose to name specific treatments or just the broad category, like a CO2 laser versus naming the brand of laser you have, for example. And then finally, if you have e-commerce on your website or you're using your RepeatMD app properly, you can even link people through to, what products you typically recommend for patients who are dealing with that concern. So between the device pages themselves, Brittany, the browse by concern or browse by condition pages, and then the actual solutions by age pages, you can really divvy that up to all those different angles you want to hit without making one page too cumbersome or too confusing. So hopefully that answered your question and didn't, send you down a rabbit hole too much, Brittany, but I hope I answered that for you. Great question. Thank you so much. Our next question is from Isabella. This is a good one. How would you suggest tailoring your social media to attract the 5 types of patients, or do you suggest a couple types to attract? Great question, Isabella. So I'm going to answer this from a few angles. First and foremost, you want to look at who's probably on your social media, right? Like I talked about a little bit earlier today, harmony seekers often aren't that active on social media. So I'm not saying don't create content for them, but if you are focusing all your time and your efforts on social media to speaking to harmony seekers, it might not be the best use of your time because that's not their primary active way of finding a practice, right? So generally on social media, not always, but in the majority of cases, I'm usually speaking to first and foremost, the beauty seekers are always going to be part of that. And then we usually pick a secondary type of patient we're looking to speak to. It could be change seekers, it could be prestige seekers, it could be detail seekers, right? It's going to depend on what your patient mix looks like, but your social media marketing really should focus primarily on your beauty seekers and then one additional patient type based on either who you know you're serving now and is getting great results, or B, on who you want to see more of. So don't feel like you have to spread yourself too thin and approach all 5. Really aim to focus on 2 in your messaging first and foremost. And then further to that, be driven by your metrics, be driven by your analytics, right? Really be driven by, what are people responding to? What's getting the best engagement? Look there. Great question, Isabella. I hope that answered you for you. Thank you so much. What other questions do we have? What else are we curious about? Give everyone a second there. And I'd love to know, is anyone coming to the MAP meeting? I would love to see some of you guys there. Both Repeat MD is doing a booth. I'm doing my own booth as well. So definitely come and say hi. But let's see what other questions we've got. Here we go. We've got a question from Heather. What would you recommend speaking about specifically 24 hours in the call before? So that's a great question, Heather. And that's going to look a little bit different depending on what services or treatments the patient is inquiring about. But generally, I like to say, we're super excited to see you. Ask if there's any initial questions they might have, and offer to send them some information on the treatment if they haven't seen it already, right? Have they seen the page on your website? Have they seen the video on your social media? Offer to send them some resources as well to really make sure they, have all their initial questions answered before they come in and they are excited to see you. So just more than anything, welcome to the practice. Let them know how excited you are to see them and figure out what those initial questions are. And then as you best can, point them in the direction of a resource that can help give them some information that will then be covered in greater detail during the consult. So great question. I hope that answers that for you. Thank you so much. What other questions do we have today? How are we feeling? Maybe you find there's a certain patient type that you'd like more of, but you don't know how to speak to them. Or maybe in the past you found, they've come in, but you just haven't been able to convert them. I'd love to hear about some of your conversion challenges as well.
I have a question, Adam.
Go for it.
Maddie from RepeatMD. How do you best gather information about what types of patients you have?
So that's always a little bit of a tricky one. You want to look for commonalities, right? One place I always advise practices to start is looking at your online reviews and what positive comments patients are making, right? What are they saying over and over again? What kind of compliments are they giving your staff? Do they sound like more like the kind of compliment they were very efficient? Well, that would probably be the case of a detail seeker or a prestige seeker, right? If it's they really took the time to talk to me, that might be an inclination that you're dealing with a lot of harmony seekers, right? If it's, I look like a celebrity, right? That's probably a really good sign that you've got some beauty seekers, right? So one really good place to look is always going to be in your online reviews and what kind of compliments patients are leaving. That's going to give you a good hint of what type of patients you're attracting now. The other thing you're going to want to look at is anywhere you have marketing analytics, right? Whether it is your Instagram and Facebook metrics, whether it is from your website, anything you're doing with your paid advertising, look at demographics. And again, different patient types don't always fit into one demographic, but if you're seeing a lot of patients, in their mid 20s to mid 30s, you're probably dealing with a fair number of beauty seekers, right? If you're dealing with a lot of your patients, in their 50s and better, you're probably dealing with a lot of harmony seekers or maybe change seekers, right? If you have demographics on the income levels of the patients that are coming into your practice and looking at your marketing, if they're veering higher, odds are you're probably dealing with a lot of, your prestige seekers and your detail seekers. So look at your marketing metrics and performance, look at your online reviews, and between those two things, that's going to give you a really good inclination and a really good idea of where you're currently sitting and who you're currently attracting. Great question, Maddie.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions? You got a few minutes left, so I'm happy to answer them. There's no question that's a bad question, so keep that in mind. Don't feel shy, right? If you're dealing with a question, I guarantee you at least 1,000 other practices across the country have the same question, so don't feel shy.
Hey,
Great thing about
Adam.
oh, Heather's
Oh,
back.
yeah.
Yes, hello, Heather. I love when you get on mic. Hello.
So I was just thinking, so a lot of our patients, the way that we schedule them and everything is through like our paid ads, and then they actually message us. So if we are answering a lot of their questions and such through that before we schedule them, do you still recommend calling them? I just don't want to be like too pushy, if that makes sense.
There is a fine balance, right? And I don't remember if I talked about it on a RepeatMD webinar or somewhere else, but there is such a thing as over communicating with people, right? And some of these, advertising companies that are showing up at the industry now, their whole strategy is like very aggressive, like follow up and SMS messaging and phone calling people to get them book an appointment. That doesn't always work with the upscale patient, right? It's a delicate balance, right? So if you're doing a lot of these 80% sold principles already, Heather, through your automation and your systems, that's wonderful. add a little bit of that human touch in, right? It's not like we're going to call them 3 times before they come in and like bully these folks into answering the phone, but maybe you give them, one compliment, one courtesy call just to welcome to the practice again. It's very, gentle. It's not pushy at all. It's just letting them know we're excited to see them. If they have any questions, right, we're very, delicate in our communication and the vocabulary we use, and then we go from there, right? So I do think that personal touch is always a great idea. You just don't want it to be where they're hearing like 4 times from you within the hour. So like if someone fills out a consult form through your marketing avenues and your automation at like 1 o'clock, like don't call them like 1:01. It's like, whoa, these guys are really eager, right? Maybe you call them at like 11 a.m. the next day, time provided. So it's about finding that balance, but I definitely do like a little bit of that human touch. It just really shows that you care. And I think in the world of automation, I love leveraging systems, but that human touch is sometimes lost. So give it a try. Again, we're driven by data. If it improves your conversion, we keep doing it. If you find that, it doesn't make a difference, maybe you choose to continue with your automated way of doing things. But at the very minimum, I would encourage you, give it a try. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Oh, we've got 2 more questions here. I love this. One from Courtney, one from Francis. Let's get into it. So the first question is for a fairly new clinic. How do you build good reviews? A new place won't have as many reviews. I totally get it. That is always going to be the challenge of a new clinic, of a new practice, is getting reviews. There's any number of ways you can do that. There are software tools out there that can do it. One thing we like to do with a lot of our clients is create like a postcard we give patients at the reception area on their way out that has a QR code they can scan at home and then be directed to where they want to leave a review. Key to getting reviews, no matter what mechanics you choose, whether it's an automated system, right? And there's any number out there, you can, Google around for those, whether it is a postcard that you're leaving, with patients at reception, get it during the honeymoon moment. What do I mean by that? For you and your staff and your reception team, I want it to be like a reflex, right? The minute they hear a patient say something nice, I look 10 years younger, my skin has never been so glowing, I can finally go out in a bathing suit and feel confident again. Like a reflex, don't just have them say thank you, have them say, that means so much to us. We would love more patients just like you. Would you mind being so kind to share your thoughts online? And then you can hand them that piece of collateral or direct them to that link, right? And get it in the honeymoon moment, right? When they're willing to, share their experience, when they're excited, do it then. That's a key to getting more reviews, getting it in the honeymoon moment. Also, if you are a practice that either accepts tips for some of your providers or you have patients asking to leave a tip, certainly let them do that. But in addition to that, let them know, the best tip we can get is a positive review. So if you'd like to, leave a tip, please do. We'd also love for you to go and share your experience online. I know I have a question here from Brittany as well. Google reviews are hands down the best, in my opinion. Facebook reviews are fine. Real self reviews are nice too. I don't like Yelp, but that's another conversation for another day. But Google reviews reign supreme, in my opinion, because the more reviews you get, the more it's going to help your Google listing. That's great for SEO. If your patients are naming the service they got at your practice, that can really benefit your SEO too. So Google reviews absolutely reign supreme, in my opinion, above all else. The challenge with Google reviews is it's tied to a Google account, and people sometimes have to leave their names, which some people aren't comfortable with. So what we do in those cases, if someone doesn't want to leave a review tied to their name, Google is far and beyond the best, but we'll even have physical postcards that people can take home and write their experience on, and there's like a postage stamp area on there where they can send it back, or they can fill it out in the practice and drop it in a box, right? Even if that's not as good as a Google review, it's still, to me, some social proof, better than no social proof. We can then take that and use it on our social media or our website. So we always shoot for Google first, but failing that, we can do something like they write it on a card or they do another online platform. But as far as I'm concerned, Google is far and beyond going to be your best. Great question, Courtney, and great question, Brittany. I hope I answered those for you. Francis has a question about how often should we be posting on social media? That's going to look a little bit different for every practice. It's really going to depend on what your capacity to create social media is. But as a starting point, follow the ratio of 2, 2, and 1. 2, 2, and 1. What do I mean by that? So ideally, as a starting point, 5 posts a week. Now, if you're going to be very, very proactive, and this takes a lot of content capacity, in a perfect world, I'd like to see a practice doing 5 posts a week to their photo feed, 5 reels a week, and posting 5 days a week to their story. That's a lot. If that scares you, let's just start with 5 overall. But let's do that 2 to 1 ratio, right? If we're posting 5 times in a week, 2 posts should be practice related. Before and afters, talking about the credentials of your staff, talking about the treatments you offer, letting people know you've got a membership through RepeatMD and the benefits of that. 2 posts a week that are practice related. The next two posts should be industry and beauty related. So this is where you're not selling anyone anything per se, but you're selling them on the fact that, you are an expert at all things aesthetics, you know your stuff, and ultimately, that you are the go-to in your market. So that's going to be talking about, new trends and new studies that are coming out. If you are attending, the MAP meeting or any conference, or, you're training for a company, or maybe your staff are getting trained on a new modality, that is all industry and beauty related content as well. The other thing that fits into industry and beauty related content can be celebrity content, but I'm a very big stickler on the fact that if you're going to talk about celebrities, it should always be from a place of positivity. None of this, here's what she's had done and how I'd fix her. None of this, like they looked really rough on the red carpet the other night. Here's what I think happened. None of that negativity. It should always be talking about how great a celebrity looks and how people can either achieve a similar result for themselves or talking about treatments for people that are in the same age group as a certain celebrity. So that's your two industry and beauty related content. And ideally, these aren't all the same format, right? Some are carousels, some are videos, some are static posts. So that's your 2 and 2. And then the last part of the ratio, if we're going to get to 5, is 1. One post a week that's going to let people get to know you and your staff better, right? Maybe you give back to an organization in the community. Maybe you all have pets. Maybe some of your team members play a sport. Maybe you collect something. Maybe you bake. Maybe you sing. I don't know. But we are not just, two-dimensional characters running around town with syringes and like skincare products in our hands, right? We are all human beings. And at either end of a smartphone, there is a human being. So make sure you're at least once a week really infusing content into your mix on social media, Francis, that's going to really humanize the practice and let people get to know you better. If you can follow that 2-to-1 ratio as a starting point, you're going to be in a really good spot. Look at your metrics, look at your data, see what patients engage with the most and do more of it, but use that ratio, the 2-to-1, practice related, industry related, and beauty related, personality content as a starting point. Great question. I hope that answered that for you. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Oh, you're so glad you loved it. Wonderful. Serenity Aesthetics has a question. How to structure packages and memberships to appeal to the 4 personalities. I'm going to try to answer that very succinctly, but we'll definitely want to do a whole future session on that and how you can maximize that in your RepeatMD app. But really understand what treatments, look at your total menu, and that's going to be different for all of you. Look at your all-encompassing menu of treatments and services and really figure out which of our treatments are speaking to which personality types right now, and how do we focus those into our various offerings within our RepeatMD app, right? How do we make sure that we're hitting all of those with the different levels or different options you have inside of your app to make sure you're accommodating as many people as possible? So that's a great question. I think RepeatMD team, we should do a whole session on that actually, but
Yeah, that's an amazing question. I was like,
for you. Yeah,
I
that is really literally worthy of a whole session of its own. I would love to do that, but start by looking at what treatments are really appealing right now to which personality types in your menu of treatments and services, and then make sure we're including all of those in different facets of your RepeatMD app. Great question. And you're doing your playbook right now. So definitely really, even maybe, to the side of your playbook, start looking at like, okay, these services appeal to our change seekers. These services are typically what are bringing in our, personalities like harmony seeker or the prestige seeker. So great question. We'll answer that in greater detail on a future session. I love that. But there's a bit of a first step for you as you're working through your workbook. Oh, and Isabella just wanted to hear the 2-to-1 ratio. 2-to-1, Isabella, is the social media ratio. 2 practice-related posts a week, 2 industry and beauty-related posts a week, and 1 personality post a week as a starting point. Ideally, you're doing that for your reels, your story, and your photo posts, but if that scares you, just start with 5 overall. Great question. And I think we've got time for one last question here, again from Serenity Aesthetics. I love it. Would you recommend a monthly membership for body sculpting treatments, or something like 6 months to 6-pack? Also, what is a typical price points for memberships? Price points vary wildly depending on your market. So you'll want to look at, where you're situated in terms of your competitor landscape. You don't necessarily want to be the most expensive in town, but I always like to keep our clients around the second most expensive, right? You always want to be seen as a premium. And I always say, think of like Amazon Prime, right? When you're looking at how you're going to factor things in your membership, make sure the benefits are so substantial that someone almost feels silly for not being a member, right? So look to your competitors as far as pricing goes. And as far as whether I recommend a monthly membership or 6 months to a 6-pack, that could go either way depending on how you position it. But I always like to say patients by outcomes, right? Patients by outcomes. So I always think when you're talking about the naming of a package or what you're putting in there or what you're including, can patients see themselves in the after, right? So a name like 6 months to a six pack, well, someone can easily see themselves as a six pack and 6 months later. That makes it very tangible. The monthly body sculpting membership, now there's nothing wrong with offering that, but calling it that doesn't really speak to an outcome related benefit, right? Like someone's like, okay, I'm going to get my monthly body treatments and then what, right? So, maybe you call it, fitter every month or sculpted every month, right? Even that would be better than just calling it like the body membership by month. So hopefully that answers that question for you there a little bit, Isabella. Or pardon me, Serenity Aesthetics. Great question. Oh, and one last one snuck in. It's from Brianna Anderson. I am currently posting 2 Insta Facebook posts a day, 7 days a week, plus TikTok. Do you think you're overwhelming people? Possibly. So again, as marketers, Brianna, we're always going to be driven by data, right? It is possible that when you're posting that frequently, Instagram is thinking that you're spamming people, especially if your captions are very similar. So for 10 days or so, I would try dropping your, posting cadence down to around 60% of that, right? And seeing how it impacts your engagement. If there's a substantial drop, then maybe, you go back to posting more frequently. If you find it's improving it, then you stick with a more balanced cadence, right? But at that posting frequency, it's possible, not that you're necessarily overwhelming people, because remember, on the best day in the world, only 15% of your followers are seeing your content. So it's not that you're necessarily overwhelming people, but it's that the algorithms of Meta, aka Facebook and Instagram, may not love posting that often. So just try dropping it a little bit. See how that impacts things. A big part of it's going to be how long you've been posting that often as well, right? And how Instagram sees that in part of the algorithm. It's quite complex. Rihanna, for your information, 52,000, okay? Instagram and Facebook have over 52,000 data points on every single one of us, determines what we see when we post and how they show what you're posting to other people. So just try something a little bit more, gentle with your cadence, see how it goes for you, and go from there. These were great questions, you guys. I feel like we covered so much ground. I absolutely love this. Maddie, Sarah, what are your takeaways? What else do we want to chat about today? I'm all ears.
I mean, this was just awesome. I think this gave us some great ideas for future content. I'm excited about the idea of doing the types in terms of memberships and packages. Also, I can't remember who asked, but there was a question around pricing. And I think pricing is such a complex and interesting area. So I think that's something where, and people feel free to chat if that's something of interest to you, but thinking about how to price memberships, how to price packages, I think that could be something super interesting as well.
There's an entire psychology around that. And I think between that and talking about how we tailor your offerings to, different types of personalities, I think that could be super beneficial. So you guys are giving us some great ideas for future content. If you want to connect with me, there's a link to do that there. I hope you found this beneficial. I can't wait to do another one of these sessions. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't as well. Adam Loves Branding. I post all kinds of great tips there. Again, if you're at the MAP meeting, go say hello to RepeatMD. Definitely come say hello to me. I'm sure we'll be all hanging out together at some point. So this is going to be great.